And back to today, we are talking about a subject that really is at the heart of everything my company does, and that's basically how to work with brands. It's going to be very hard for me not to pitch anything whilst this session's going on. But it's basically the buy side and the sell side with us this afternoon, talking about and giving insights into matchmaking for the most important of marriages. This morning's session, UBS, Cisco, Football Marketing Asia talked about finding a cultural fit, finding a values fit, finding an audience and tribal fit before even thinking about brand engagement. So how do you find the right partner? Do you dance before you get married? How do you close the deal? Do I want a long-term relationship? And I have to do this because it's about sponsorship. Ladies and gentlemen, Marmite is a Unilever brand. David Porter will also appreciate this. How do we get Marmite to sponsor Sports Matters? Maybe not, but this afternoon session does feature a very important person on the sponsorship side from Unilever. Plus, we also have wonderful speakers from the NBA and CAA. It is being helmed this afternoon by CSM's Lesley Williams, who I believe is joining us from Sydney today. Come in, Sydney.
Hello,
Lesley Murphy. Sorry, I said Lesley Williams. It is live and it is virtual. We are being helmed today by Lesley Murphy, who is coming in live from CSM in Sydney. Lesley, before I hand over to you, please let us know not just your correct surname, but what you do for CSM, who are your clients, and how do you get involved in this relationship between brands and sport?
Great, thanks, Jasper. Yes, Lesley Murphy here, Regional Director at CSM Sport and Entertainment, and I oversee the Asia operations, which is actually headquartered in Hong Kong, although I am in Sydney at the moment. We're a full-service agency, and we work with both brands and rights holders across the region to develop marketing and partnership solutions across sport, but also entertainment. So that involves everything from helping brands and rights holders to identify and secure new partnerships, or it could be developing activation strategies for brands who have existing partnerships, to delivering standalone events, fan experiences, campaigns, and the list goes on, really. And in terms of clients that we work with, we have quite a large roster of brands that we work with globally. And across various industries. So that's the likes of Land Rover, HBO, SAP, Unilever, Diageo. A couple of our long-standing clients within the region that we work with specifically are AIA and their sponsorship with Tottenham Hotspur football team. And HSBC is a long-term partner, and we work across a number of their properties. So rugby, esport, tennis, AFL. You asked about my personal involvement. I think what's exciting about my role is every day I get to sit down with various brands, and my job is really just to truly try and understand them, what they're about, their business challenges and objectives, what they're trying to achieve, and from there really work with our expert team to figure out how sport can be used as an effective vehicle for them to achieve those objectives and really make an impact in the markets that they operate.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to hand over to you, Lesley Murphy. You may call me Donut at least once from now, but
I think I have Lesley, already. Yeah.
Over to you. Please do enjoy the session.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jasper. And thanks for inviting me to host today. I'm very excited to spend some time with our guests who we've got. We'll learn a bit about each of them, their careers, what they're working on in the wonderful world of partnerships, with the intention that we provide some good insight to the audience who might be looking to get in the industry. And here I've got my first guest. We'll spend some one-on-one time with each of them. Welcome to Willem Dinger from Unilever, who brings a wealth of expertise on partnerships from a brand perspective. Hi, Willem.
Hi, Lesley, and thanks for having me as well, Sports Matter Academy and Jasper. Really good to be here today, so thank you.
Brilliant to have you. And to start off, I know the audience would love to hear a little bit more about you. Could you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are with that brilliant background behind you, what you do for a living, and a bit about your journey as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Willem Dinger. I've been at Unilever for nearly sort of 7 years. I kind of lead all of Unilever's brand partnership efforts. So that's everything around sort of sport, entertainment, culture, talent, celebrities. Also kind of leading everything around gaming and Web3, which has obviously accelerated hugely over the last 18 months. So yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, sport is my passion, entertainment is my passion. I've been doing it you know, for the last 20 years. I actually started my journey in 2003. I started working for one of the biggest sort of entertainment and sports publisher, DAZN, or it was DAZN now, but it was sort of Premium TV or Perform Group back then. And then, you know, I spent a year there, and then I ended up sort of working for Fulham Football Club, so within their kind of marketing and sponsorship department. Worked there for sort of 5 years, really kind of started learning the bedrock of the foundations of marketing, working with partnerships, and really seeing how we can sort of accelerate sort of brand programming and activation, really driving value for big corporate and blue chip clients. And then I worked for a couple of agencies as well. So working for Momentum, I've worked for a couple of IPG agencies, WPP agencies, everything across sort of sport, entertainment clients. And then I ended up working at Unilever. So yeah, within Unilever, obviously very exciting role, very lucky and privileged to have this role, because obviously sport, entertainment, culture is my passion. So being able to do that within my everyday life is obviously a true privilege. And yeah, it's a central role. I work across all of the 5 different business groups that we have across Unilever. So it could be very varied, you know, it could be one day corporate partnerships, but generally speaking, it sort of transcends across all sort of different levels of sport, entertainment, and cultural partnerships that also includes talent. So yeah, it's a great role.
Amazing. And diving more into that role, as you said, Unilever has such a large brand portfolio and a number of partnerships that go along with that. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of those sponsorship sporting properties that you sponsor, and why you sponsor them?
Yeah, so I mean, it's massively diverse. You know, we've got such a huge portfolio of brands. So it can be everything from sort of football, celebrities. So within Sure or Rexona, so Rexona is the global brand. We invest heavily into football. So we've got relationships with City Football Group across the men's and female teams, also the disability teams as well, which is hugely important across sort of diversity and inclusion. We've also got relationships with Chelsea Football Club. And then also within Latin America, we partner with CONMEBOL, so the Copa Libertadores, which is essentially the Champions League. So again, you know, it's all about sort of building a portfolio that really kind of leans against the core market priorities that brand would have. So we've also got ambassador relationships with Gabriel Jesus, with Hector Herrera. And then obviously we've had over a 12-year relationship, which obviously CAA and Sam has been kind of intrinsic behind in terms of the 10-12-year relationship we've had with him, and him really driving the Clear Men, which is one of the number one anti-dandruff shampoo brand. So big global relationships. We've also got the NCAA, obviously the college program within the US. Within Lifebuoy, we've also got a huge footprint within cricket. We've done within the IPL, also with the Bangladesh cricket team, the Pakistan cricket team. We've got the ECB as well. Dove Plus Care, huge footprint within rugby. We've got all of the sort of home union relationships. We've got the Wallabies in Australia, Sia Khaleesi, who's obviously the South African rugby captain, and also South African rugby as well within our kind of portfolio. So you can see that there is kind of a very kind of direct focus where we feel that there are shared missions, values, and beliefs in terms of driving the brand attributes and driving the brand programming, which kind of very much closely aligns with the purpose of the brand. So yeah, we think very carefully in terms of how we select and how we obviously partner, and also making sure that because we've got such a diverse selection that, you know, one brand owns soccer or football, we've got a brand that owns rugby, another brand that might own cricket. So yeah, we think carefully about strategically how we deploy different brands across a diverse kind of sporting kind of portfolio.
Just a few there keeping you busy then.
Yes.
Yeah, no, truly an exciting suite of properties. And when it comes to forging all of these new partnerships, how do you typically approach these? Do you go out and seek these, or do they usually come to you? How does that typically work?
It's a bit of both, really. I mean, it comes, really at the top of all of our comms and media planning. So we think about, what we need as a brand to really drive purpose-led communication, product-led communication. And we really feel that actually integrating ourselves within these different passion territories really helps us drive a sort of a more authentic and meaningful connection with all of our fans and customers around the world. So partnerships within sport and entertainment is absolutely a priority and focus for us. And we make sure that, when we're looking at partners, as I said before, that, they really share the same missions, values, and beliefs, but also the ability to innovate, to do something different, to be able to kind of carve out a real kind of ownable platform that none of our competitors are currently doing, that actually it's something that's going to drive relevance, talkability. And then within Unilever and our marketing manifesto, we really talk about how our brands become unmissable. So how do we cut through culture? How do we cut through noise? How do we drive relevancy, but doing it in an authentic way that's really going to drive value for the fans and the experience that these fans have around the world through our different partnership programming. So there's a lot of work that goes in terms of strategically identifying, procuring, and also looking at the suite of rights that we look to carve out that's going to drive that kind of cut through.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many things to consider, as you say, and really having that point of difference. That there's that whole process and actually finding the partnerships, and then obviously bringing them to life is the next key part. How do you then decide how to activate, each of these partnerships? How do you look at that holistically?
Yeah, I mean, activation, is where the rubber hits the road. This is where the value, I sit globally. So whatever I kind of conjure up globally, is kind of irrelevant if the market teams aren't really putting the right media planning and activation and amplification resources behind it. So obviously, it's massively important that, we've got a big digital, social footprint, physical footprint. And really, from a retail perspective, making sure that we're working really closely with our kind of customer development teams to really be able to blow out these kind of activations in store as well, but also through our e-com channel. So we have to look at kind of an omni-channel approach. But I think the biggest thing is making sure that we're kind of driving the right kind of resources locally to ensure that we're doing justice to the spend that we're putting behind from a fee perspective globally, or sometimes that fee also sits locally. So, yeah.
Okay, excellent. And you mentioned, and sorry, this is probably the last question for the time being. You mentioned a lot of the brilliant partnerships that you've been working on, that you work across. Is there a standout for you at the moment? Something that you're really excited about?
No favorite childs from my side. They've all got their benefits, equally. But I think, listen, what I've really found interesting is the acceleration of gaming, the different types of partnerships that we're now looking at, especially with all things Web3. Like 90-80% of kind of metaverse or Web3 use cases are very much gaming related. So we're really focusing on gaming and esports as kind of core kind of marketing platforms for a lot of our brands to cut through culture and to really reach a hard to reach audience in a relevant and authentic way. So yeah, it's a very exciting times, I would say, in the sort of the virtual and digital space at the moment.
Yeah, definitely one we're all trying to get clued up on. Thanks, Willem. That was brilliant. Fantastic to hear from you. And we'll have to leave it there for the moment. As I said, we're going to bring you back later on, so don't go anywhere just yet. And a reminder for those watching, do send through some questions which we can address later on. I'd now like to welcome Francesco Suarez from NBA as our next guest. Hi, Francesco. Great to be able to chat to you today.
Nice to be with you. Thank you for having me here.
I'm going to start with the same question I did with Willem and ask if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and your journey.
Great. Well, I've already learned something, which is never follow Willem on a panel. I think he's covered everything in great detail that we hope to discuss today. I like to joke that I got into sports marketing by accident. I was an English major at university, and I wrote my thesis on Ben Jonson, but not the Canadian sprinter, the contemporary of Shakespeare. So I obviously had a passion, and I threw myself into it. I volunteered at a few things, including one of Jasper's events, the X Games in Phuket many years ago, and then got an internship with IMG and ended up working for IMG for many years. So I spent time on the agency side there, then a couple of years on the brand side, working as the head of sponsorship and group events for ANZ in Asia, and then after that, now working for the rights holder for the NBA. And so that's for those, I think, who are interested in pursuing careers in this space. I think the agency side, the sales side, in other words, the buy side, and then the rights holders themselves is an interesting kind of triumvirate for people to explore. So I'm based in Hong Kong for the NBA in Asia, which this may be boring to people, but the markets we actually cover out of the Asia office are Japan, Korea, all of Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. So it's kind of ex-China. China's administered separately. But I look after our marketing partnerships, which is our sponsorships business, our events business, and our basketball operations. And that's as much as I remember of the question you asked me. I hope I covered it.
So that was brilliantly answered. Thank you. And yeah, great to hear you've got all that experience from all aspects, rights holder, agency, brands. Talking about the NBA a bit more specifically and in the region, as you say, how important is sponsorship to NBA?
Yeah, it's a crucial part of what we do. And I think the way that we think about it is primarily, putting the fan at the center of everything that we do. And, we feel if we get that right, then we're confident in being able to offer NBA assets as a sponsorship platform for brands who might want to work with us. But really at the core of it is, all the things that Will mentioned a moment ago. You have that sort of first filter that you go through when you look at, cultural fit, tribal fit, values, etc. And then the other part of it is, can you package an audience of people who are passionate about the NBA for our marketing partners, for our sponsors, in a way that is actually going to shape consumer behavior and help to drive, the outcomes that they're looking for.
Brilliant. And how do you approach partnerships? How do you go into these meetings, or what sorts of brands do you look for, and who are some examples of who you work with?
Yeah, so we have a huge roster of global partners who we work with, who then run activations across all of our markets in Asia. Hennessy is a great example of a very innovative partner who's been doing great activations in Australia and in the Philippines. You may have seen some of the work that they did in taking over Bondi, Iceberg, and creating basketball courts there, and then more recently, doing a basketball court, a floating basketball court in Sydney Harbor. And so our global partners are out here, Gatorade, Nike, et cetera, and they're all activating in very interesting and novel ways in order to connect with the large fan base that we have in Asia. And then we have, a lot of local partnerships. And, in the Philippines, many of you know that basketball is a religion there, and the NBA is the top sport in that market. And so we were working with AXA. We've just signed a new deal with a company called Energen. We've done a lot of partnerships with Vivo Mobile, who we've won awards with them in creating branded content for them, which is a growing area of our business. I think one other area that is extremely interesting for us right now, also in Australia, is in the wagering space, where wagering on sport is it's as much a part of the way people enjoy sport in Australia as anything else. And we have a new partnership with Tab there, which is really we've actually become the #1 betting sport in that market. And so it's a very interesting new area for us, where we're looking at ways in which we can activate and ways in which we can create content for that partner. And for us, really the most successful partnerships, I know Willem very wisely said no favorite children in all of this. And so I won't talk about any particular brand in particular, but obviously the ones that are most satisfying are the ones in which we can sort of demonstrably move people's business.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to look at it. And I guess when it comes to day-to-day working with brands, what makes a good partner for you?
Yeah, I think good partners for us, obviously, as the NBA, we have to think very carefully about our own brand and who we'd like to partner with. And so clearly, we're also using that filter to decide who we think is the right partner for us. And then, people who really are thoughtful about buying into the partnership and working with us to help solve their problems, help solve their, solve their problems, maybe not the right way to put it, but achieve their business goals. And so that two-way kind of communication, where we are working with each other, riffing off each other, working in a consultative way to actually get the most out of the partnership. Those are the brands that we really like to work with.
Great. Francesco, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave it there for the time being, and we can carry on this conversation. I know we have so much more to talk about, but I am going to bring you back. So hang tight. Very exciting property to be talking about, and we'll come back shortly. Our third and final guest, who I'd like to introduce you to, is Samantha Chen from CAA. Hello, Samantha.
Hey, guys.
Providing an agency perspective on partnerships, and more specifically on the sponsorship sales side. So great to have you here.
Great to be here as well.
And Sam, I'm going to ask you the same question again, and that is, tell us a bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Yeah. First of all, before I go into a spill about my journey, first of all, guys, can we acknowledge how awesome this is? Because I know I speak for myself that, like, growing up in Singapore many years ago, I never thought of sports marketing as a viable career path, right? So the fact that Jasper and your team are doing this to really highlight this amazing industry that we're all part of, and also attract more talent to this, I think it really cannot be understated. So thanks, Lesley, for moderating. It's a very, very tough job sometimes, and hopefully alongside Willem and Francesco, we can provide some different perspectives, because we work along different aspects of the sports industry. So a little bit about me and my journey. Sam Chen, I think you can see my name there, from CAA Sports, and I run our partnership sales and strategic development team for our APAC business, and I'm based in Singapore. But as of about 6+ weeks ago, I was working out of our international office in London, running our Asia business from there over the past 4+ years. So I'm back now in the motherland of Singapore to build and run our partnerships business in the region. And for people who are not very familiar with CAA Sports, what we do in our partnership sales team is that we represent an exclusive roster of approximately 2,000 different international athletes, with the names that you might recognize of like Cristiano Ronaldo, Jose Mourinho, Son Heung-min, Shohei Ohtani, and also our portfolio of right holder clients, including Formula One, Red Bull Racing, Riot Games, UEFA, Euros, Madison Square Garden, and many, many more. So essentially what our role here is, I think Jasper kind of alluded to it, is to play matchmaker, is to connect these amazing athletes and rights holders to the leading brands in Asia. I think you guys might be also familiar with our agency as a wider agency because we also represent the other passion points with departments in music, in TV, in fashion, influencers, digital, etc. So we like to think that we are kind of in a business of like happiness and creative marketing. So in terms of how I got here, I think that is quite a common theme that emerges in my career trajectory. I've always joined companies across different industries that are in a startup phase of them growing in a specific region, Asia Pacific, because I really believe that's when you can actually learn the most, but more importantly, allows you to add value in a way that you can actually see it. So prior to joining CAA, I was based out of Hong Kong with Manchester United for about 6.5 years and was part of the pioneer batch of executives that built the United business from the ground up. And before that, I was working for Google in Singapore in the ad sales department, back when I think Google only had like 200 employees. I think they have like 2,000 now. And digital like marketing was on an upward trend. And a lot of our pitches were why you should spend money on like, social media marketing and search marketing rather than like TVC. That was way back, without betraying my age. So yeah, that's basically how I arrived here at CA.
Yeah, some amazing experience there. And you were just saying you're very much the matchmaker, you're playing Cupid in these scenarios, and which can be extremely challenging to get right. So how do you approach that partnership sales process, and some examples of who you've worked with and some success stories you've had?
Yeah, sure. I think that we're one of the few agencies that has the skill and also the ability to really touch different passion points, right? So we really feel like we're in the heart of like culture and emotional marketing. So it's not just about approaching every partnership process by passion-led marketing, but also data-led marketing as well. I think, Lesley, you guys in CSM do the same too, because when we advise rights holders who are our clients and our athletes who are our clients and our brands who are our buyers, we don't just ask them, okay, what kind of market share do you want to get? What kind of like brand attributes do you want? But we also ask them a very simple question. What do you essentially want people to feel when they look at your sports property, when they look at your brand, when they look at your athletes? So I think that really kind of like, I know it's oversimplification of something like that, but I think that's really at the heart of what we do in CAA. In terms of success stories, there's so many, and I know we're limited on time because I can talk forever on this, but I think 2 examples really stand out. One, which is more along the theme of helping a business actually grow internationally. So some of you here might be familiar with Oppo, which is the leading technology and consumer electronics brand headquartered out of China. We started working with them at a time about 3+ years ago when they were trying to enter the European market and really establish themselves as an international brand. So we helped them secure a partnership in tennis in Europe that really helped to position themselves as a really premium brand. But as we all know, that's not enough, because I think William kind of alluded to that as well. The Gen Z audience is so hard to target, but we are fortunate enough to actually represent Riot Games and their big esports tournament, League of Legends. And through our help, we managed to actually matchmake them together with Oppo. And they, I think, were the first ever Asian sponsor of League of Legends esports as well. And they've really achieved a lot of success. I think the second part of it, of what successful partnerships look like to us, in addition to helping brands grow, is actually the fact that we're an agency, right? So the fact that a brand comes back to us for repeat business across all the different types of partnerships that they're working on is really important to us. I think a good example, the more recent example I can give, is Bybit, which is a cryptocurrency exchange platform. We've been working with them for the past 3.5 years and started with a football partnership with Borussia Dortmund. And then they came back to us for esports teams partnership. And then most recently, we helped them secure their principal partnership with Oracle Red Bull Racing. So I think in the agency world, I think having that trusted advisor role is really important as well, because it's not just about helping the business actually grow, but for the business to trust you enough to do it over and over and over again.
For sure. And it's all about building these relationships, as you say, that you forge these long-term connections, which is fantastic. And that leads quite nicely into my next question, which diving into the sales role that you do and thinking about the audience and anyone looking to take that step, what qualities would you say are required for a role such as this?
I think like regardless of whether you are a salesperson in sports or outside sports, there are so many different qualities, right? But if I can just maybe identify one quality that's the most important, especially in sports partnerships or entertainment partnerships in a salesperson, I think it's curiosity. Like curiosity about the world around you, curiosity about like human behavior and dynamics, curiosity about marketing, curiosity about the brands and the individuals as people that you're working with is really, really important, because if you're not curious about them, you obviously would not care as much if they succeed or they fail. And once you actually do, you truly feel like you're part of their growth journey. And I know that, in sales, sometimes you have a lot of stress, you have to hit certain targets, chase certain revenues, but that's not really sustainable though. And frankly, doesn't really make you happy. So that's why I think here at CAA, we like it when our rights holder and talent clients, as well as our brands, refer to us not as their agency, but as their partners, because we are fully committed in their growth journey as well.
I love that. We should all be more curious. I think it applies to everybody. And then another question, you are a successful female in what is a male-dominated industry and role as well. What would your advice be to any females also looking to get into the business?
Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, my gender is definitely one component of my identity, but as of most individuals, right? You are the sum of your experiences, your background. So as such, I would kind of like change that question a little bit and answer a bit differently, if that's all right, Lesley. I would kind of define myself more as a diverse individual working in an industry that perhaps, as of right now at least, is made out of a specific demographic. So my advice, I guess, to diverse individuals, whether it's based on gender, sexual identity, socioeconomic class, nationality, ethnicity, is really simple. Like, never let the fact that you do not look like, you do not speak like, you do not act like the majority of individuals in the sports industry ever deter you. And I know this sounds very kumbaya, but in fact, your differences are in fact your superpower, because you really have to lean into it. And what is different about you is really what the industry sorely requires. And the lens that you interact with the world might be different, but it's this unique perspective that will further development of our industry. And in the partnerships business, right, we work with brands from different industries with different backgrounds. So I just think that it's important that for our sports industry, we need to have individuals who are diverse enough from all backgrounds to reflect that.
That's great. Thank you, Sam. That's brilliant. I'm going to stop you there for a moment. We're going to continue this conversation, but hang tight. And I'd like to invite everyone back for a group discussion, and we can chat a little bit more. And we'll also start to take some questions from the audience as well. So hi all, and welcome back. Keen to get each of your perspectives on this. As we've said, we've got a brand, a rights holder, an agent, an agency. It's been a couple of interesting years in the industry, challenging years. It'd be great to know what has changed for you, if anything, when it comes to how you approach partnerships, or learnings you can share from the last couple of years. Willem, I'm actually going to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been an easy couple of years by any stretch, but I think the biggest thing that we've kind of learned is making sure that you've got a very strong digital strategy to ensure that we're connecting with our fans and customers around the world through the omni-channel approach, to ensure that we're connecting on all levels. And that's where it goes back to my point, really, in terms of, how bringing the virtual in, the gaming and the digital, and also Web3, in terms of how that then becomes part of your total kind of partnership strategy. So, yeah, I mean, I think, that would be my kind of number one sort of, response to that.
Any thoughts on that, Francesco?
Yeah, we had a lot of pivoting to do and accelerating in certain areas that we've been working on and building out during the last couple of years. One thing that has been essential was we run a kids program called Junior NBA across the region, and we're have over 25 million kids who come through that. And obviously we couldn't do on-ground events for, a significant period of time. And so we had to figure out how to deliver the junior NBA program in a virtual or a digital format. And that's something that we've been building, prior to this period. And we really had to accelerate our efforts in that regard. And there was a lot of things we learned along the way and how to actually create those same, not quite at the same level, but approaching the same emotional experiences that we're able to deliver with our on ground, with our coach staff who travel the region and work with kids and schools, etc. So that was an important one. And of course, it also accelerated a lot of what we do in the branded content side of things. We've got an incredible in-house content team here who works with brands to find the stories that they want to tell through basketball and through the NBA and through some of the local basketball ecosystems. And one recently that we won an award for was working with our mobile phone partner in the Philippines, Vivo, using one of their mobile phone models. I think it's the X50 Pro, to capture what life was like during this period for basketball players and tell these stories, which won, and that won a few awards. So those are two important ways in which we kind of pivoted a little bit, but also, as I said, sort of accelerated areas that we were already working towards.
Amazing. And Sam, how about for you in that sales process and those relationships? What's changed for you since then?
Yeah, I think like Willem and Francesco kind of highlighted a few already in terms of like digital engagement being so much more important. I guess for us as an agency, I think that we all can see and we all can agree, right, that the past 2 years was a shared human experience. It was like a very unique experience, both good and bad. But what it has also kind of like brought up is the humanity and like people as really human beings. And unfortunately, that's good and bad. And it shows both sides of it. But what we've seen when we talk to brands and also rights holders is them learning from the experience that we had for the past 2 years and actually realizing that, hey, you know what, we need to actually properly approach emotional marketing and culture marketing. And we need to find a way to do it in a really positive way. And if you think about Web3, I'm not an expert, guy, so I'm going to caveat this. If you think about Web3, people always think that, oh yeah, we're just going to live in a metaverse. That's not it. I think Web3 came out as during like the past 2 years, also just as a different way that people can interact with each other. So like, it's not going to necessarily completely replace like face-to-face human real life interactions. But I think that the past 2 years has really told us that we want to be part of a community, whether it's virtual, whether it's physical, we need to be around people. So I think that has really kind of informed a lot of the brands that we work with and a lot of the clients that we work with, that they really have to place importance on culture marketing and passion marketing.
The other thing I'll quickly say, like last couple of years, is that you really find out who your best partners are, your brand partners and rights holders, because I think it's the ability to be agile, to pivot, to think on the spot, to rip up the contracts and basically be able to start again and be able to drive value in different ways. And I think having that flexibility, but also the loyalty and trust in those partnerships, because it is definitely a two-way thing, has been kind of an amazing learning in terms of who you're finding are your best partners and those that aren't so good. So I think just the ability to adjust, I think, has been massively important, and being able to just think differently and just looking at where the value lies and being able to kind of just shift areas of focus and just not look at the fees or the contract assets so much, but looking at, okay, we're in here, but how do we actually look at things a bit differently? And I think it's a mindset thing. And I think from a lot of our partners, they were extremely flexible in that sense.
Yeah, you're so right though, William. I think, sorry, Lesley, you're so right though. I think the tough times of the past 2 years, you really kind of see like who are true partners, right? Because like true partners will stand by you and be your therapist, because let's be frank, right? It's been a tough few years for everyone in the business. But I think that, you know, the partners that perhaps, let's say when you are reacting to a specific sponsorship live event that's been cancelled, if you react in a negative way and say like, hey, you know, you still have to pay, you know, we don't want to like adjust the rights. I think not having that flexibility and having that emotional maturity to kind of deal with those tough conversations are really important. And I think that's what makes like, you know, a partnership truly like multi-year rather than just transactional as well. So I think playing therapist sometimes during the past 2 years was quite important. I think we all had to do that, not just like with the brands and the clients that we work with, but also internally. And I think that that's really important, and it really is the crux of partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great. And that, yeah, as you say, we've all feel like we've probably all seen a million contingency plans, new ideas coming through. And actually, we've got a question from the audience, Vera Ong in Singapore, who, you know, talking about new and innovative sponsorship ideas. Have you come across any good new ones lately? I'm going to actually throw that to you, Francesco.
You know, I think I'm going to throw it to Sam, because she's on the agency side, seeing across all these different industries. I'd be very interested to hear, you know, what it would be odd for me to say, oh yeah, we're doing all this amazing and innovative stuff, but I'm very interested to hear what you know, what Sam is seeing in the market.
Yeah, I think like I can't speak to specific ideas, but I think that there is a general theme of disruption, I would say. I mean, obviously, like, let's also like be very frank. I think that the cryptocurrency industry has been really, really a positive one for the sports industry in terms of sponsorship. And what that comes with as well is the spirit of disruption. It's not specific to crypto specifically, but I see that even like spilling over to some of the more, hate to use this word, traditional brands that we work with as well. They see some of the different innovations that crypto is doing, not just in the sponsorship space, but in the wider landscape of like the business environment that we actually operate in. So I do think that that spirit of disruption in general seems to be actually kind of perpetuated across both traditional and emerging sponsorship brands. So yeah, that was kind of a cop-out, but it's more of kind of a theme that I've been seeing rather than specific innovations.
No, that's great. And Willem, how about yourself? Have you seen any interesting new ideas come through lately?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my side, I mean, it's not new, but I think for me, my benchmark has always been Wendy's. What they've been doing within gaming and being sort of very disruptive and organic in the way that they're inserting their brand and their core proposition within the Fortnites and Animal Crossings and all sorts of different sort of gaming publications, I think is a true testament to their marketing nous. They haven't done any kind of traditional sponsorship, because a lot of what they're doing is through creators, through influencers, and how they're actually integrating themselves organically without paying the massive bucks. But they're trending. People are talking about Wendy's. It's around not serving up frozen burgers. And, you know, like how they're doing in that across all of the gaming and Web3 ecosystem, I think for me is something that I'm always kind of looking towards. I think Burger King are another of those brands that disrupt extremely well, McDonald's, and what they've done with their celebrity partnerships with Travis Scott in terms of creating the Travis Scott burger menus, which I think completely broke the supply chain of McDonald's within the US. So that for me is where, you know, the unmissable for me kind of transcends, you know, in terms of like our own marketing manifesto. So yeah, I mean, I think what Nike have also done within Nike Land and Roblox, again, that's more of an integration as well. So that's where you're bringing the virtual and the physical together, you know, opening virtual stores and how you can use virtual environments to drive physical participation and physical activation in the real world. And that for me is also the holy grail in terms of how we're looking at both the virtual and the physical. It's not one or the other. I don't think it should be a blended approach.
Brilliant. And I guess thinking about our audience a little bit more, and knowing that partnerships for the group here, we're all very passionate about partnerships. I'd like to perhaps Francesco, I'll come to you first. Can you tell us what is it about partnerships specifically that gets you out of bed in the morning? What excites you about it?
Yeah, I think you were spot on in your intro. There are very few careers, I think, apart from maybe just pure consulting careers in which people maybe tend to specialize in particular industries. But in ours, you have the ability and the opportunity to speak to so many different companies from so many different industries and really begin to dig in and try to understand, how their businesses operate and what their concerns are, and try to think creatively about how to create solutions for the things that they're trying to accomplish in their business. And there was this, I think, sense in talking to Jasper and all of you prior that a career in sports is a newer concept in some of our regions. But it is absolutely one in which you get such a broad base of business knowledge and business understanding through working with all the different partners in all the different fields. And so that's been extremely rewarding. The other thing is, I think really this junior MBA program that we have, I mentioned it earlier, has a very special place in my heart. And, it was designed to, I think, help governments around the region address this sort of epidemic of inactivity among kids. And, we do this all for free for governments and schools in a lot of our markets in Asia. And, the knowledge there that we're trying to make a difference to the lives of all these people across the region and on a very big scale, and how these kids may think about sports and activity into their adulthood is an extremely inspiring thing that, I get up and think about every day.
It's very inspiring. And how about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think that, I think basically me and Francesco are motivated by the same things. I think we are, what really excites me the most is exactly what he said. The fact that like at 10 a.m. we'll be talking to FMCG giant like Unilever and like understanding that, certain brands are specifically tied to certain passion points and everything that they do has to have a social purpose. And then like the next hour, you're talking to a semiconductor company and they're talking about global chips shortage and how that impacts their business. And then fast forward another hour, you're talking about like a crypto company and NFTs and Web3. So yeah, Francesco is exactly right. I think that intellectual stimulation that you get, it just makes you actually a more interesting human being, in my opinion. And it helps
Thank you.
to...
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Francesco. We're both in the same mutual admiration club. But anyway, I think that's what's important though, working in partnerships. Going back to the whole curiosity theme as well. If you don't educate yourself and you don't enjoy educating yourself on a daily basis, or in this case, intra-daily basis, I don't think you can ever call yourself like a responsible partnerships professional, because what we do here is matching two organizations filled with individuals with, on paper, quite different, but if you dig down to it, they actually share the same values and the same ambitions as well. So I think that in itself is what kind of like really motivates me and kind of gets me really excited. And that's saying a lot because I'm quite an excitable person, as you can tell.
Brilliant. Over to you, Willem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much more to add than what Sam and Francesco has already said. I mean, when you work in an industry where it's your passion outside of work as well, it just makes it so easy to get up in the morning. It's like, it's what I love doing and enjoying in my leisure. So coming to the office and actually working within sport, entertainment and culture is actually a really, exciting and fascinating kind of industry to be in. And it's just enjoyable. So if you do what you love as part of your work, then yeah, it's something that is just easy to get up and enjoy and do your best, and you work hard. And for anyone coming into the industry that is in a similar position, then, as Sam said, stay curious, do your own research, work really hard, have fun and enjoy it. And, I would say also, try and get in at any entry point, because it's just getting your foot in the door. And yeah, once you've got your foot in the door, then it's up to you to kind of find the area that you enjoy working in and doing your best and working hard. So, yeah.
I think my other
Excellent.
bit of advice for people interested in getting into this industry is just pester Jasper nonstop. I'm going to read out his personal mobile phone number for everybody to note down.
That's a great idea. We're typing it right now in the chat box. No, that's fantastic. Thank you, and excellent advice. And actually, I think we are very sadly coming towards the end of our session. So I will hand over to Jasper and invite him back to wrap up the session and take it from here. But thank you all again for taking the time today.
Oh, it's about this time I like to have Marmite on my toast, Willem. Thank you so much for a brilliant session. And Lesley, awesome moderating. You were brilliant. Thank you so much. Some great insights that came out about culture, passion, partnerships, the importance of partnerships, loyalty and trust, and innovation, and people being innovative and coming up with new ideas all the time. So thank you so much to Willem, to Sam, Francesco, and again Lesley for joining. Up next for Learning Matters for the Academies, next week we have not one but two Gaming Matters sessions. One is on the importance of data, and one will be all about the return of live events. And we've got some amazing producers from the live esports business going to be talking about some of the exciting things going on in their worlds. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for all the questions that came in. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all of them. We ran out of time, unfortunately, but thank you so much for getting them in and for joining. As ever, any feedback for us, please, or if you want a job, clearly just get in touch with me for some reason. But if you've got any feedback on the academies, please do let us know. But again, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you also, I would say again, to our sponsors. And now we're going to hear from Sport Business.